FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. UN sanctions paramilitary leaders over Sudan atrocities. Several feared dead as Kwara bandits strike Kebbi community during prayers. U.S. missionary Alex Babir alleges Benue government embezzled aid funds meant for rebuilding Yellowwater, and ADC to petition ECOWAS court over assassination attempt on Obi Oyegun. Details now. Thank you for staying tuned. The World News at 12 begins with the United Nations Security Council announcing new sanctions on 4 leaders of Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces over atrocities committed in the western Sudanese city of El Fasher. The Deputy Commander Abdul Rahim Hamdan Dagalo and Brigadier General Al Fateh Abdullah Idris, more commonly called Abu Lulu, who became known as the Butcher of El Fasher, among those prescribed. The others are RSF Deputy Commander Gedo Hamdan Ahmed and Field Commander Tijani Ibrahim. Spokesman for TASIS, a coalition of civilian and armed groups led by the RSF, said the sanctions were unfair, saying they were based on what he described as partial and unneutral reports. The RSF's capture of the city in October was one of the most brutal chapters of Sudan's nearly 3-year civil war. Last week, a UN fact-finding mission concluded that the violent takeover bore the hallmarks of a genocide. The RSF has admitted that violations were committed in El Fasher and says it is investigating them, but insists the scale of the atrocities has been exaggerated by its enemies. Back home in Nigeria, suspected members of the Lakurawa armed group have reportedly attacked Dadinkowa community in Mayama local government area of Kebbi State, killing several residents and injuring many others during Tarawih prayers. This was disclosed in a post today by security analyst and crisis journalist Bakat Sine via his X handle. According to the report, the attackers stormed the community on Wednesday night and targeted the worshippers observing prayers in a mosque. The incident reportedly resulted in multiple fatalities, with several others sustaining varying degrees of injuries. Makatsina described the development as a grim reminder of the persistent insecurity in parts of northern Nigeria, noting that the attack occurred during the holy month of Ramadan. He questioned how individuals kill innocent worshippers inside a mosque during Ramadan could claim to represent Islam, stating that such actions only tarnish the image of the religion and fuel hostility against the faith. Now, in a very recent development, Alex Babir, an American missionary and founder of Building Zion, has released a fiery video accusing the Benue state government officials of detaining him for 48 hours on trumped-up charges to silence his criticism of aid mismanagement following the June 2025 Yellowwater massacre, where over 200 people were killed. His organization successfully rebuilt approximately 35 homes for families who lost loved ones in the attacks, fulfilling what he described as his God-given mission to help those who lost families who were massacred in the night. He proposed a cost-effective 60 million naira project to reconstruct the destroyed local markets in Yellowwater. But according to him, officials from the Benue State Emergency Management Agency and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs allegedly rejected it. Instead, authorities countered him with an inflated 300 million naira estimate for the same work, prompting him to suspect embezzlement. He further accused state agencies of diverting up to 4 billion naira in funds earmarked for persecuted Christian communities, declaring, "With 1 billion naira, I can build 3,000 homes." He frames his work as a divine stand against systemic injustice in Nigeria's north-central region, and warns that those abusing government power will face consequences. The Benue state government is yet to issue an official response to Alex Babir's allegations. Meanwhile, let's take a listen to him actually countering an interview that was granted by someone in the Benue state government department on what really went on with the building of houses in Yellowwater.
Instead of commending and praising the work that is done in your state, you spit. You intentionally lie about the work that has been done in order to discredit what we've done.
You are talking of 36 houses. The best of my knowledge, the last time I was there, he raised 18 uncompleted 18 houses that he had.
You know that it's been more than 18 homes. If you've been to Yawada, you know the work has been ongoing for months. And at this point, dozens and dozens of homes have been completed. But then you want to tell the news and you want to lie and try to discredit. And say that, oh, last time I was there, only 18 homes. Well, you must have not been to Yawada in months because today is 41. The very work that you yourself refused to do. For 6 months, the government had the funds to do rebuilding, to be able to help the people. And it wasn't done. You sat on the money that was supposed to go to the ones who lost their families, who were massacred in the night, who now have no home. And you chose to do nothing. And we come. We do what you guys refuse to do. And your choice is not to uplift and to praise, but to spit on what we've done.
I don't know who gave him 300 billion projects to build market. It's laughable. We don't have such. If you have any 300 billion project that the ministry write to him or whatever, he should come.
Mr. Kunde, you say that you have no clue who talked about a 300 million market. Yet it was your own words. Tell the truth. I have the messages. They're right here. You sent the video. You told me the figures of what this market that was proposed will cost. And I rejected it and I said no. I said from the very beginning when I came to SEMA, when I came to the Benue government, I'm here to rebuild Yawada, the homes and the market. And the response was the government has a plan. Please, we will do the market. You can do the homes, we'll do the market. You rejected my intervention because of your plans. And your plans, based on the messages, was a 300 million market in which no village in Nigeria has. Not one village has this market. And so I ask you, why are you proposing such a monstrously expensive village? Which we can't even find this in Nigeria. The people just want to go home. They just want to survive. They just want to live in peace. They will take anything, even if it's 500,000 naira, whatever it is, to be able to help them. And instead of using what you have to go and help immediately, to run into the fire to help your own people, you are going to sit back and then do nothing because of your 300 million market. I ask you, Mr. Kunde, today, have you built the market? Where are the funds for the market? Where are the funds that have been donated for Yawada? Where are they?
We rejected the plan of thatch houses for the returnees.
There was no plan for thatch houses. If you go to Yawada today, you see cement and brick. Not once was it proposed that we will build thatch houses. If we were going to propose to build thatch houses, we would allow them to do this themselves. They lived in mud and grass. Today, they live in cement.
If we want to settle people, we will tell them this is the way we want to settle. That's why the government of Benue State also have a resettlement plan. But we cannot return people the same way they were.
You say that you can't return people the same way that they were. I ask you, which people have you returned to their land in Benue? Which ones? Which families? Which homes have you built? Which people have you allowed to go back to their ancestral lands? Which ones? The only reason that I'm even working in Benue and in Nigeria as a whole is because the government is not doing it. You have millions of people around Nigeria who have had their villages burned, their farms have been stolen, they've been forcibly removed from their land. And you guys are allowing this, and you're not helping them. No village has the government built. And so we have to come to be able to do this because as a Christian, we cannot stand by in silence as people are massacred, as Christians are slaughtered, as Muslims are burned. We stand for truth, we stand for justice, we stand for what is right. And it is our duty to do this. And we come because you are not doing it.
You're still listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. In the meantime, the African Democratic Congress ADC has announced that it will petition the ECOWAS Court of Justice over what it described as an assassination attempt on Peter Obi and John Odige Oyegun in Edo State. In a statement on Wednesday, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, National Publicity Secretary of the party, alleged that a gun attack targeted Obi Oyegun and Olumide Akpata. The party described the incident as a dangerous and escalating pattern of political intimidation and terror against the party across the country. ADC said the attack represents an act of terrorism against the opposition, which has no place in a constitutional democracy. The party also accused Edo State Governor Monday Okpebolo of making inflammatory remarks that heighten political tension in the state. ADC referenced a previous statement allegedly attributed to the governor that he would not guarantee Obi's safety if he visits Edo State. Now, a Nigerian police officer has been seen firing multiple gunshots into the air after after being instructed to do so by a TikToker. In a video shared on TikTok, the officer was seen discharging his weapon along a highway reportedly on the Oyo-Ilorin road, while other officers stood nearby. This has raised questions about police officers in the country seemingly available to do anything for meager payment. Meanwhile, organized labor in the Federal Public Service has issued a Friday ultimatum to the federal government to release funds to settle 3 months outstanding wage awards and other pending allowances owed workers in ministries, departments and agencies. The leadership of the Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council, JNPSNC, trade union side, Labour warned that failure to meet its Friday deadline would compel the 8 unions in the civil service to take decisive action. They accused the federal government of deliberately withholding funds meant for workers, despite agencies reportedly being ready to process payment once funds were released. The wage award dispute, which has lingered for over 2 years, followed the federal government's approval of a 70,000 naira minimum wage after the removal of fuel subsidy. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll now go into the news analysis segment. I'm being joined by Chukwuma Okoro. He is a veteran journalist as well as a political, social and national affairs analyst. Good to have you here, Mr. Okoro. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. There's a lot of issues in the news today. Yesterday, people were protesting in Ondo due to insecurity. Today, Take It Back movement is protesting in Kwara State, while we're also getting reports that ISIS, ISWAP, Boko Haram are expanding their terror networks in different parts of the country. While this is going on, there are certain people who have taken it upon themselves to act the savior by helping the people who were chased out of their ancestral homes due to insecurity to try to rebuild, to try to resettle. But then Alex Babie, who is the leader of Building Zion, says not only did the Benue government try to embezzle the funds that he wanted to use to rebuild Yelwata, but they are discrediting his work after he has left. Recall that just before he left, he made there was a video where he was talking about how I'm leaving now. Since I've been here, there has been no attack. There have been security agents all around me. But I hope that when I leave, I will not hear of attacks in Yelwata. I will not hear that these houses that have been built have been razed down or destroyed by these terrorist elements. Not just that, but government officials are saying, oh, he lied about the number of houses that he built. That is just 18 uncompleted buildings and not 36 completed houses. And the man is angry, saying, I'm doing the work you refuse to do, and you're still trying to discredit me.
I think that's the most embarrassing part of it. Quite embarrassing, not just to the government of Nigeria, but to you and I as Nigerians. You see, when you talk about reports of insecurity across the length and breadth of this country, it's gone beyond reports, because you see these things happen. We know people, that have experienced this. We know the victims, because if they are not our friends and our relations, they are citizens like you and I are. And so it is gone beyond reports. It is real. We see these things. We feel it. Now, I think the problem we have in this country, apart from the problem of leadership, anyway, it cascades down to the people that leadership employs, to do the work for them. Unfortunately, that is what it is. We have very unintelligent people in government, and the unintelligent people go ahead to employ very unintelligent people in government again. So what do you get?
Like minds.
Like minds. So the problem is compounded. Now, because of the way politicians are, if they rarely and hardly employ people who are more intelligent than them, so that they will not take the shine away from them. So they go for low end. Look at someone that is you associate responsibility. People were attacked in their homes, driven away by armed men, non-state actors. The government turns around to tell us that the attackers are foreigners, and these foreigners are living in people's ancestral homes, and we have a government, and the government is bold enough to tell us that the attackers are foreigners. We have an immigration boss who remains in office. We have a customs boss who stays in office. We have a chief of army staff, an IG of police, national security advisor. Nobody's career is damaged. And we have foreigners occupying homes of people, natives in this country, and they are in turn living in IDP camps. Now somebody takes up that responsibility, that the government has abdicated and abandoned to build homes. You know what we hear? Oh, you are not building 35 homes, or you have not built. What we saw is 18 uncompleted homes. Choma, that is the height of, that is unthinking irresponsibility on the part. If I were the governor, I'll sack that person. But the governor will not do that because that is what the governor wants to hear. Because if by the time the man says, oh, we saw these homes, that means that the governor has lost its responsibility. And what happens? The people will come after him. So the governor doesn't want to hear any of that. So he marshaled out his men, go out there, destroy whatever he has done. And that is what we are seeing. But Nigerians are far too more intelligent. Unfortunately, we allow these things happen. And that brings to question the kind of intelligent people we have in Nigeria. I'm even beginning to think that all of us are the same. Because we just talk about it, and at the end of the day, what happens? Tomorrow, something bigger happens. We move on. Next tomorrow, something bigger that won't happen. In fact, the biggest things happen. We move on. And we come on radio, on television, on social media, and talk about these things. 2027, we re-elect the same people to come and superintend over us.
Do we really elect these people?
No, we
Because
do.
sometimes when we hear about people from certain political parties with certain political affiliations talking about how there's even a song in Yoruba that says, even if you vote, whether you vote or not, this person has entered.
No, that's the mindset,
Because
which is very wrong.
Because they have this song it's usually sung by the political class.
Because
as well.
we allow
They
it to
raise
happen.
these songs.
Choma, we allow it to happen. You have what we call people, power, and politics. You know what powers politics is? People. And you know what the people have? The power in politics. But we don't use it here. Let's go back to South Korea. What happened last year?
Oh, the declaration of a
state of emergency. Martial law. What happened?
The president it was removed. He's been sentenced.
Okay. So
to life in prison.
So who made that happen? Is it not the people? When the people massed in the parliament,
the judiciary, the lawmakers, they did not allow that to happen.
You know why? Because the people forced them. They had all gone home. The people said, no, we can't take any of that. Go back there. They moved them to the assembly and said, go, and we don't want this. What happened in Bangladesh? Is it not the people? They had to move the president from a copter, from the penthouse, and he ran away. People, power, and politics. That is what we lack here.
Before we start talking about the power of the people, we'll talk about the unity of the people.
Okay. What about the unity of the people?
When the people are not united, how
so
can
why are we not united?
unity?
Why are we not united? You have brought us back to where we started. It's about the people. Why are we not united as a people? Because the next thing now, people will say, oh, because Nigeria is multi-ethnic. We are not the only multi-ethnic society. In the whole of Africa, only 2 countries are mono-ethnic, and that is Somalia and Botswana. And for the generalizations, for any generalizations you make about those 2 issues, look at what is going on in Somalia, in Tatars. So being monolith doesn't even solve the problem. But in Botswana, because they are monolith, they are moving on. So one cannot say, oh, we want to our separate enclaves as a people. What happened in South Sudan? When it was Sudan, once Sudan was split into 2, the Nuers and the Dinkas, are they not killing themselves? So it's about the people. Whatever the people get the leadership they deserve, and they deserve the leadership they get. So what is going on in Benue State? Let's return to Benue. It's embarrassing. Not just to the government, but to Nigerians. A foreigner comes to help, and okay, look at, and the issue of, oh, I might see embezzlement from what Babi said. You don't need to travel far to see. We see these things happen
where he
all
was
the
giving
time.
a quote of 300 million naira for something that 60 million could do. It's like a 500% increase.
And Alex even said, look, I have evidence, correspondence I had with you.
With this man.
With this
who
man, you are denying.
He was not
and
aware.
you are denying. You know, at some point, the Bill Gates Foundation sent so much amount of money, you know, to the fight eradication of polio plus in Nigeria. And when they were done with that, they got into other areas of healthcare and all of that. Do you know, at some point they said, no, we cannot continue because the monies we are sending in Nigeria cannot be accounted for. At some point in Maiduguri, drugs that were sent by USAID, you know what they did? People manning those drugs stole them and in turn used blocks, stones, to put in those cartons. So when the inspectors came, you know, to see, okay, how much have we done and all of that, when they opened those boxes, what did they see? Stones. How much was donated to displaced people in Maiduguri? when that dam, broke and destroyed Meduguri, parts of Meduguri city center and all of that, in excess of 17 billion naira. Apart from the over 4 billion naira that state received from the ecological funds from the federation, what happened? Has that money been accounted for? The people that were displaced, have they all gone home? We still have IDP camps in Borno State. So it's a familiar story. We go through this every other day. Federal government sends palliative to governors. Governor gives to commissioner. Commissioner packs it in his personal warehouse. And sometimes after 6-5 months, you come and see palliatives caked. Some of them expired. What happens? So the problem is both the government and the people. It is shared responsibility. But until the people begin to hold the government to account, we will not see an end to all of these shenanigans, all of this nonsense.
But the people who are trying to hold the government to account, you see sometimes where there are campaigns of intimidation against these people. They go out to protest, their tear gas, sometimes they are poured hot water, sometimes they are pushed back. It's a lot that actually happens. Right. So when you talk about how the people should hold the government accountable, when you talk about what the opposition is supposed to be doing, the other day I was I think it was on Tuesday, we were having a conversation with an APC stakeholder in Ikeja, and I said when the ADC gathers, a lot of times you see attacks, not even knowing that while we're talking about this, the attack in Benin was taking place. And he said, oh, how many times has the ADC gathered? If you say it's almost every time, that's wrong. Then you have to provide proof for that. But we've seen it in Lagos, we've seen it in Kaduna, we've seen it in Kebbi.
Okay.
And now in Benin.
Before we talk about the ADC incident, I would like for us to talk about, when you say people are mass and the police disperses them and tear gas. What happened in Madagascar last year? Can you recall what happened? The soldiers said, no, we cannot. These are our people. We cannot fire them. Take responsibility.
One would say that those soldiers, they have another sustenance, or they have a head, or they are just removed from the executive. When whatever you have to do, when your allowances, when your salary, when everything is based on the feelings of the executive, can you really say no when you are giving an order?
No, you can say no. You can say no. It happened in Madagascar. It happened in Romania. You know about Nicolae Ceausescu, and his wife Elena. You know what happened to them? Something that was, in fact, the birthing of the Orange Revolution in parts of Eastern Europe. He had amassed people in a place looks like Eagle Square, and he was like, oh, I did this for you, I did this for you. He took an old woman to shout, liar. People turned to see who has this kind of courage to do that. And before you knew it, 10 people, liar, 100 people, 1,000 people. And when he commanded the soldiers, the soldiers turned the turret at him. No, you don't run. If you run, we'll kill you. You know what they did? They captured the wife, killed her in that square. And that was the beginning of the Orange Revolution. I'm not saying that we should get into all of that. I'm just trying to emphasize the power of the people when they are determined. We see a lot of people, individuals do a lot in this country. I can cite the instance of Omoyele Sowore. He has confronted the government several times. Choma, Nigerians were able to come together and push out the military between 1983 and 1999.
He's a man with a name. He's a man with a platform. You want an ordinary Nigerian?
No, he needs support. No, he needs support. Nigerians can line up behind him. Nigerians can line up behind him. People like Olisabako, Clement Nwakwo, Ayo Obadokun, Ganefa Wemi, Beko Ransom Kuti, Chimuban, all of them came together and pushed out the military. So how come in the civilian era we are now worse than what we were during the military?
When Nigerians gather around these people, they are done with the show, with the protest, with the talking. They go and enter their vehicles and go home. The ordinary Nigerians have to find their way.
That is what I'm telling you now. The ordinary Nigerian, it is shared responsibility between the leadership and the led. The people that are led, the moment to begin to hold their leaders to account, the moment to begin to, I can go on and on. I can talk about the French Revolution. I can talk about the Glorious Revolution in Britain. I can talk about the October Revolution in Russia and all of that. Choma, this is how societies were changed. But we don't have to travel through all of that. We have, the advantage of history. How did these people overcome all of these things? Look at how democracy took root in Europe. Why can't we practice that? Why is Africa different? Why is Africa the wasteland? We have resources, both human and natural. We have the demography, very active asset, the population. So why are we not taking advantage of all of that? What our leadership does is what they do. They go to Europe, they go to Asia, and do what? Buy up properties, buy homes and all of that. Is that what we should be talking about now? The power belongs to the people, and until we realize that the power is our own, we will continue running this circle show. It will not take the effort of one man. We need mass mobilization.
All right, then. While we're still talking about the insecurity, we literally did the morning show on TV together earlier today.
Yes.
And for the topic on insecurity, you could see different states within the past 48 hours, from Ondo to Adamawa to Nasarawa to Edo, where a chief was killed, where the son literally stepped out of the house to buy something and came back, and his 2 sisters had been abducted. The mother had been injured,
beaten,
and the father had been killed. So about 4 or 5 states within 24 to 48 hours. Within last night and this morning, Lakurawa terrorists also struck a community in Kebbi State. It's almost as if we are immune or numb to this. We hear about it and we say, oh God, not again. And then we continue to face what we are doing. In the midst of this, there's a report that ISIS, ISWAP, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, they're expanding their base into Nigeria and our West African neighbors, Niger, Benue Republic. The Niger-Benue Republic-Nigerian border. They're strengthening their numbers around those places. I've continued to ask again and again, while we are collaborating with foreign forces, the US, Turkey, France, these are West African brothers that also have these same issues that we have. It may not be as huge as it is in Nigeria. Can we not have a collaboration between our militaries to at least rid our borders of these terrorist elements? Because it seems now that indeed actually being imported from other regions to come to Nigeria and cause havoc.
Well, we tried that before and it failed. It failed essentially in Nigeria because you recall we had a multinational joint task force. And what did they do? They chased all those people away from Chad, Niger, and Cameroon into Nigeria. And what did the Nigerian government do? The Nigerian government accepted them. At this moment, this conflict has been internationalized to the extent that, well, it has grown beyond Nigeria. America has stepped in. And if you hear that ISIS, ISWAP, and other foreign terror groups are coming into Nigeria, I saw it coming. I expected it because the problem has been internationalized. We are going to have proxy sponsors, people from the Middle East who are interested in Nigeria because America is raising alarm. Oh, there is Christian genocide in Nigeria. Christians are being killed. And our government, in their irresponsibility, you know what the government responds? No, it's not only Christians that are being killed, even Muslims are killed. A government admitting that its own citizens are being killed, and that government still remains in office? Oh, it's not only Christians, Muslims are being killed. We have the chief of the National Security Advisor tell us that, and he's still in office? See, the problem is about to start. We have Africans, we are not futuristic in thinking. We are not futuristic in thinking. At a point when suicide bombers, were going off with bombs in parts of Middle East, Iran, Iraq, and all of that, you know what we said at that time? Oh, it can't happen in Nigeria. And when it started happening in Nigeria, we surpassed them. What do we see now? I'm surprised that for Obasanjo, for everything that he did to stabilize Nigeria, I think that is one area he failed. Obasanjo, as a retired army general, with chief national security advisor, the intelligence people around him, should have known that Boko Haram was going to fester and snowball into what we are doing now, into what we have now. Unfortunately, our government is not even thinking on how to solve the problem. You know what they do? They jump on a plane, go to United States, sign an agreement, and go to Turkey, go to France and sign memorandum of us. Those things are not going to work. It's only going to compound the problem. America is here now. So you see that ISIS, ISWAP, and all of that, they're expanding. They have sponsors, international sponsors. And I have been challenging people, both in public and in private. Even on TV, I ask people, can anybody tell me where America went to solve this kind of problem? And they succeeded. Just one place. Just one place. And in recent international history, you can talk of what they did in South Sudan, by splitting it into two. And probably North Korea by splitting it into two. They went to Vietnam. They went on with a bloodied nose. What is going on in Egypt? They went to Iraq, they cut and ran. They went to Afghanistan, they cut and ran. If American soldiers are here, for all I care, they say they are going to help us with intelligence gathering and all of that, and tactical operational support. To what end? So we then now take over our commands, our military commands. That is not going to happen. And if you put them in the front lines, by the time 3 or 4 or 5 of them are killed, America will go wild and ask Trump to recall them. And the problem will be compounded. The only people that have the capacity to solve this problem are the Nigerian leaders. And the earlier they stopped internationalizing this problem, the better for us. Because by the time international gladiators, interest get into this, it is going to be much more compounded than we know. When people reduce America's interest to the issue of economic side of it because China is here mining, I disagree with them. Has America gone to DRC where China is doing a lot of mining and apparently supporting terror groups there and the fighters? Has America gone there? Their interest is in protecting Nigerians. I don't read the economic side of it. Unfortunately, that is what most people see. Oh, America is coming here because China has come. That is not true. Like I said, have they gone to DRC to do all of that? And mind you, Nigeria is not the only country of particular concern. There are other places, but they have particular. If you talk about economic interest, they can remain in the south, where the south is relatively safe. They have more interest in the oil than China. So for me, it's not about economy. It's just that the Nigerian government is the one internationalizing this problem, and the earlier they pulled out of it and treated it as a local problem, the better for us.
One of the worst problems with this issue is not just the fact that they are making inroads, but there are now so many of them, so many groups, so many splinter groups, so many factions that because they are now fighting for supremacy.
Our government allowed it to fester. With time, it will get into sectarian violence. And you know what that means. They say they have intelligence. So of what value is intelligence? And what value of intelligence is the Americans coming to bring here? We have people that are killed, communities that are raised down within earshots of military posts and police commands. People get information, oh, the police, we hear that they are going to attack us in the next 2 or 3 days. Police say, hey, forget it, it's not going to happen, we are in control. And less than 24 hours, that community is raised down. Not just raised down, the people are chased away and the other people occupy that place. So what is the value of that intelligence?
Very unfortunate, but we'll keep talking about these issues. It really doesn't do well for our mental and psychological health as Nigerians. And the more we talk about it, and it seems like it's so far away, the number we get to these issues. But let's talk about the Nigerian police for a second. Yesterday on Matters, I asked Nigerians if they expect something different now that we have a new sheriff in town, a new IGP who many extolled his virtues when he was in Lagos, and they say he did very well. Now that he's in a higher position of power, he might be able to change things within the Nigerian police. Today, there is a video out there of a Nigerian policeman firing his gun, wasting his bullets, shooting into the thin air on the order of someone who has been called a TikToker. A TikTok star. You have many followers on TikTok. A lot of people watch you. So, of course, tries to do different things to get people talking. And this person said, I'll give you 20,000 naira. I just need you to shoot into the air. And the policeman shoots into the air.
And he gets
he wastes his bullets.
Yes, and he gets paid 20,000 naira.
We didn't get to see that part. Well, all we heard was
apparently
yes,
he's going to apparently he's give, and I need more. He's going to give him more. To do what so that he'll earn 20,000 naira. Now we see these things happen. We see Chinese people, gather our Nigerian policemen and give them, dash them money,
I think it was like 1,000 or 2,000.
Chris Naira knows and all of that. And everybody is happy. One of them is even videoing it and showing Nigerians, and we are happy. We saw one Chinese in some parts of Lekki area of Lagos, who was also, dashing Nigerians, 1,000 naira after a fight and all of that. So these things, and because small crimes are not punished, the big ones thrive. Because the people that got involved in this kind of infractions before were not punished, that is why this one will persist. The next normal thing, the next conventional thing to do is to, get this man, do a orderly trial and all of that, and if he's found guilty, he should be dismissed. And after dismissal, well, if there are other consequences, he should bear them. But we don't see that those things happen. We don't see those things happen. I refuse to believe, align with people who say, oh, policemen take bribes because they are not very well paid.
Let me just butt in there. When you say we don't see these things happen, I think it was in 2023 that 3 officers who were escorting a popular APC praise singer, they were actually shooting into the air, and the then first PRO Muyiwa Adejobi announced their dismissal. It was due to issues of misuse of firearms, abuse of power, gross indiscipline, reckless use of live ammunition. So we've seen cases where the videos come out, they are punished, and the people still go ahead and do the same.
When was the last time? When did Muyiwa do this?
That was in 2023. There was also a time when one certain policeman was seen in a video. He was fighting with a conductor, holding the conductor on the phallus, dragging him, and that issue was. But once these issues come out, we see that sometimes there is a trial, sometimes they are punished and all of that. But what about the ones that do not make it to social media?
Exactly the point. Now, those were some of them that even make it to social media, social media, are not always punished. These guys are just the fall guys. These guys are just the fall guys, maybe because they are not close to people in government. That is why their own cases are treated like that. We see these things happen every day, every other day. We see, out of those people that when the president gave the order that they should withdraw escorts from VIPs, and some policemen were arrested, have you heard anything about it? Have they been dismissed or what? Because apparently they flouted and violated the order of the president. Any consequence? Have you heard about any? Because these VIPs will go back and plead on their behalf, and they'll be let go. So these people, the few instances we have rolled out, those guys are the fall guys, probably because they don't have godfathers up there. If you do the same thing across board over time, and it becomes knowledge that, look, if you do this, this is the consequence, and nothing is going to spare you, I think people will sit up. People will sit up.
But the Nigerian police, many times they are being seen as though they can do anything as long as you promise to give them money, or if you give them money. We had a colleague here one time that was traveling and then got to the airport and was like, I need police escort, and they gave her police escort and she went on her way. That's one would say is for her own safety, but should we really have that kind of access to just go to the police? Sometimes for settling civil cases, it could be husband and wife cases, it could be tenant and landlord. Landlord will just carry police and come and arrest tenant. It's almost as if there is no due process. Once you tell them, don't worry, I will pay you for this, they will follow you. This Nigerian policeman, one would expect that he will tell the guy, get away from here. You are not supposed to approach an officer of the Federal Republic and talk to me like that, or order me to do something. But when he had 20,000 naira, all his sense of duty literally flew out of his ears.
Well, unfortunately, he didn't do that. But now, talk about police, meddling in issues between landlord and tenants, husband and wife. I think the primary duty, the primary responsibility or mandate of the police is to keep law and order. If as an individual you feel threatened by your spouse, and that your spouse is likely, to get in out of limit to harm you, I think the best conventional thing to do is to report to the police, and the police has the responsibility to wade into the matter. If you have a landlord that is giving you problem, or a tenant that is giving you problem, nothing says that you cannot invite the police. But the now question is, when the police come, what does he come to do? What do they come to do? Do they go out of way? Do they go out of limit and all of that? This should be our concern, and not because, people got involved in problems.
We actually see them harassing the other person on the orders of the one who brought them to arrest that person.
No, well, it depends on the attitude of the person that went to be arrested. Sometimes Nigerians could be difficult too. You see a time where police comes and say, Oga, we are invited, Oga said I should come and call you to the station. And the person says, well, Oga has no right and all of that. And when police accost you and say under arrest, the next thing, the normal thing to do is to obey. Obey before complain. Because if you try to make trouble, and if a policeman means to arrest you, they don't mind if it takes the whole police command to come and arrest you, they will effect that arrest. But when you comply, your attention is needed here and there, you comply, and by the time you go, you meet the DPO and explain to him, and he lets you go. Sometimes, when Nigerians run into problem, in all honesty and in all fairness, I also do blame Nigerians. Because they think that, well, I'm too big a person that the police cannot arrest me. No, that's not the case. The responsibility of the police is to maintain law and order. I know that they have the excesses. We have the overzealous ones. But the interaction and engagement between the police and the citizen also tells how much the police will react in some instances. So both the policeman and the citizen should be able to manage situations to the extent that it doesn't spiral out of control.
Because of our time, let's talk about labor for 1 minute. They're saying the federal government is promise and fail, and that they are being owed 3 months. They said the federal government deliberately withheld funds meant for workers, despite agencies reportedly being ready to process payment once funds were released.
Okay, well, if that, I think they have given ultimatum.
Yes, till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. If they feel that that is the only track left for them, to get their money, then let them use it. Because also, mind you that the strike, strike is the last weapon of any labor movement. Before they get onto a strike, you know that you have explored other avenues of resolving that crisis or that issue. And if it fails, you resort to strike. And mind you, if you resort to strike and it doesn't work, then you are finished. So labor should be also very, very careful to ensure that they don't mess themselves up by calling for a strike when they have not exhausted other avenues, of resolving that particular issue.
All right.
But it's quite unfortunate that we have a government that will make a promise and fail. 3 months. How much is 3 months? And they are sending so much money to where? To places that I don't know.
It's very unfortunate. It reminds us of the health ministry that said they only got 36 million out of the billions that were allocated to the ministry. There's a picture right now making the rounds on social media. Although one thing I like to do is try to verify images before we talk about them or bring them on here. But they were babies and they were laid on plastic chairs. They were laid on plastic chairs. They were like, wrappers or something put on top of the plastic chairs because it can be really hard for the babies. And were laid on plastic chairs. There were like 6, 8 of them because there were no beds, no cots.
Well, I have not seen the particular video that you're talking about, but these things do, the particular picture you're talking about, but these things do happen in Nigerian hospitals, in remote maternities, even in some general hospitals. You see, when you go there, there was one video, that made it around somewhere, either in Zamfara or where patients were lying in, empty, the spring bed that we
just
used
on
to
the
have,
spring.
on the spring those days, and the governor that have known that a certain general hospital in your state didn't have mattresses and foams and all of that. That is what our government does. They say, okay, don't report this because it's going to embarrass the government. But the people are overly embarrassed by your own ineptitude. Unfortunately, that is what we get. So I have not seen a picture like such things, happen in this country.
Very unfortunate. As much as we advise Nigerians to be patriotic, some say that being a Nigerian is an extreme sport because of the sheer amount of bad news that you get to hear every day. But one thing many people also tell Nigerians is the 2027 elections are very close. You can make a change, so get your PVCs.
Well, what I know, like I said it in the course of this show, people get the government they deserve, and people deserve the government they get. If you want your leaders to work for you, hold them to account. And how do you hold them to account? Ensure that you don't support bad things. And talking about 2027, well, the new Electoral Act 2026 has made it possible that you don't need to go to INEC office to collect your PVC. What do? There's a downloadable version of it. Just go and download it, laminate it. When you go to the polling unit, with your thumbprint, the BVAS is going to verify you, and you can vote. Don't vote for people that have people that they don't have the pedigree, people that have done bad things in the past, and because they gave you 5,000 naira, you want to vote for them. You are just mortgaging your conscience and mortgaging your future. The time to take charge of your future is 2027 against 2031, 2031 against 2035, and all of that. So, like I normally say, it's shared responsibility between the governed and the governors.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, for joining me on the analysis segment of the World News at 12 this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. You have been listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. We heard that the UN has sanctioned paramilitary leaders over Sudan atrocities. Several fear dead as Kwara bandits strike Kebbi community during prayers. U.S. missionary Alex Babia alleges Benue government embezzled aid funds meant for rebuilding Yelwata, and ADC to petition ECOWAS court over assassination attempt on Obi Oyegun. That's a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Gemma Innocent. Good afternoon and thank you for listening. Do stay tuned. The new Nigeria debate comes up at 1:30 p.m.